Mummy B. Scene 14. After school we headed out to my car. You still owe me a good night for the one you desecrated, Peter, Jane teased. Watch it, I warned. What's that expression about the pot calling the kettle something? I'm the only one in the car wearing real underwear right now. Besides, I'll have you know I woke up dry the next morning. It was just a one-time thing. That wasn't a lie after all, I did wake you pee dry. Not fair. Jane retorted, you know I don't need these things. If it weren't for my mom being such a b. I know, I assured her, I'm just giving you a hard time. So you didn't? You know. Wet again? Jane asked timidly. Nope, must have just been that dream. I answered, trying to sound confident. Oh, well that's good, Jane said, but I could have sworn there was a note of disappointment in her voice. We do have to get you some more good nights, I told Jane as I pulled out of the parking lot. I told her about the drugstore being out earlier that day. Another pack? Jane said incredulously, if we get caught I will end up having to go through 3 packs. She'll probably pack them in my suitcase for college. What else can we do? Do you really want to face her without 1 inch? I explained, look, she couldn't possibly have marked that pack, she didn't know about it, remember? I went on, we'll just go to another store, there's got to be a half dozen around here that sell them, and buy another pack. You can take 1 out and tell your mom you found it under your bed. She'll never know. Okay, Jane sounded skeptical, but if I get caught again you're wearing the 3rd pack. Deal. I said, pulling into the parking lot of the local big box store. Knowing we didn't have much time before Jane's mom would get home, we walked into the store and made our way immediately to the diaper aisle. I couldn't believe my eyes. The shelf where the goodnights should have been was completely empty. Had every girl in town suddenly lost control of their bladder? Jane looked panicked. Don't worry. I told Jane, we have 4 more stores to try between here and your house. Stores 2 and 3 didn't prove any more helpful. Store 4 had bedwetter pants but only in a generic brand. Deciding that a bedwetting epidemic must have overcome the area, we headed for the last store, a small mom and pop place. We might as well just give up, Jane sounded defeated. Mom is going to be home in 15 minutes, I might as well head home. If I'm late and don't have my good night she'll probably just murder me right there. Let's just make a quick check, I reasoned, we're only 3 minutes from your house and you never know what you'll find in these places. Boy was I ever right. The shelves of the store were the strangest assortment of items you had ever seen. There were spaghetti strainers next to the motor oil and 35mm film, do people still use that, in between the canned soup and the cat litter? We'll never find them in here. Even if they do have them. Jane exclaimed. Let's just ask. I pleaded. Ask. Jane exclaimed, I am not going to ask for those things. Fine, then I'll do it, I said, walking to the front of the store. There was an elderly gentleman standing behind the counter. Jane hung back looking embarrassed. Excuse me sir, I said quietly, do you have any good nights? What's that? The old man looked confused. Keeping my voice low for Jane's sake, I explained, you know they're for bedwetting, a kind of protection. Oh, you mean diapers, the old man exclaimed way too loud, for big kids. Well, I guess you ain't a kid, are you? He thought they were for me. Jane looked as if she were about to cry, so I didn't bother to correct him. Yeah, I think we got some of them in the back of the store, want me to show you, he offered. No thanks, we'll find them, I answered. I didn't think Jane would appreciate the extra company. We made our way to the back of the store. Searching the dusty shelves, we finally came upon what we were looking for. Sitting on the bottom shelf was 1 last pack of girls' LXL goodnights. With no time to spare, I grabbed the pack and headed back to the front of the store. Son, I think you made a mistake, the old man observed, these are for girls. I thought Jane was going to pass out then and there. I quickly recovered, they're not for me, they're for my little sister. Well, that makes sense, the old man reasoned. You're way too old to pee in on yourself, ain't ya? All I could do was give Jane a sympathetic look. We dashed back to the car. Hurry, Mom's going to be home in 5 minutes. Jane cried. I jumped in the car and pulled out onto the road. I had no sooner pulled into the street when Jane let out a cry. Don't worry, we'll make it, we're almost there, I said. That's not it, Jane sobbed. My goodnights, the ones I have at home, have butterflies on them. Look. She held up the pack of Girls LXL goodnights. With hearts. That's it, I'm screwed, Jane said defeated. I'll just have to face the music. I'm really sorry, Jane, I said as we pulled up to Jane's house. I feel like this is all my fault. No, Peter, it's not. Jane turned to me. Look, all you've done is try to help me. I really appreciate you driving me all over this afternoon. You really are a great friend, you're so sweet, Anne. And with that Jane gave me a quick kiss on the cheek, jumped out of the car and dashed for her front door. I sat in my car dumbfounded, staring at Jane's closed door. What was that all about? I wondered to myself. What was Jane about to say? But my bewilderment soon faded away as my thoughts turned to concern over what might happen to Jane when her mom got home. When Jane couldn't produce the missing pull-up, what would her mom do? Spank her again? Prolong her punishment? Worse? As I drove home, my thoughts remained on Jane. I hated she was taking the fall for something that was my fault. If I hadn't put that goodnight on, she wouldn't be in this mess. Even if I'd just kept it dry, we might have gotten away with it. But I had wet the goodnight and it wasn't even an accident, I had done it on purpose. I felt like such a heel. Arriving home, I went up to my room and tossed my book bag onto my bed. I sat down and tried to get started on my homework. I just couldn't stop thinking about Jane. Her mom was bound to be home by now. What had happened? I kept looking at my phone hoping Jane would call and say everything was okay. But my phone didn't ring. I thought about calling her but decided against it. If Jane was in trouble, if her mom was angry, a phone call might just make things worse. I turned my attention to my Spanish homework. Spanish. I had only signed up for it because my counselor said I needed it to get into college. I just couldn't get a grasp on learning another language. I looked through my book bag for my Spanish to English dictionary. I then remembered that I had lent it to a classmate and failed to get it back. Great. I thought, this day just keeps getting better. Remembering that I had another one, I got up and went over to my closet. I know it's in here somewhere, I said to myself, digging through my things. That's when I spotted the pack of adult diapers I had purchased the day before. I was suddenly overcome with guilt. My desire to wear them was gone. My desire to see Jane wearing them was gone. I felt horrible. I grabbed a trash bag from the hall closet and stuffed the entire pack of diapers into the bag. I walked down the stairs, out the door, and to the trash can. I tossed the bag inside and shut the lid. I vowed then and there that this whole diaper thing was over. I would never wear or even think about them again. I went back inside and checked my phone. Still no word from Jane. Not being able to stand it any longer, I grabbed my phone and sent her a text. Are you okay? I typed. A few minutes later my phone buzzed. I'll call you in 15 minutes, Jane's response came back. I sat beside my phone and waited. Time seemed to move at a crawl. Finally, the phone rang and Jane's number appeared on the caller ID. Hello. I answered timidly. Hi Peter, Jane's voice was barely a whisper, but I could tell she had been crying. I can only talk a minute, Jane continued. Mom is in the basement doing laundry. If she finds me on the phone, I'll be in even more trouble. So what happened? Are you okay? I asked. Yeah, I'm okay. But Peter, it was horrible. Jane sounded like she was starting to cry again. Mom came home and the first thing she did was ask for the goodnight. Jane's voice broke. I told her I didn't have it. I didn't know what else to say, so I told her that I had had another accident and that I was embarrassed and had thrown it away. I'm sorry, Jane, this is all my fault. I wish I could take the blame, I apologized. Peter, no. This is my fault. If I hadn't tried to trick her in the first place, none of this would have happened. And I couldn't possibly bring you up. That would make things so much worse. I would probably never be allowed to see you again. Jane exclaimed. So it was bad? I asked timidly. Bad doesn't even begin to describe it. Jane's voice quivered, she absolutely lost it. She started ranting and raving, saying how she couldn't trust me anymore. I got another spanking, of course. But you'll never believe what happened next. She made me stand in the corner in just my goodnight. After an hour I told her I had to use the bathroom. She said that if I couldn't hold it I could just go in my diaper. She stood there and watched me wet myself. I've never been so humiliated. I'm so sorry, Jane, it was all I could manage to say. That's not the worst part, she continued. She said I have to wear diapers for a week. That's not so bad, is it? Just another week? I asked, confused. Peter, you don't understand, Jane cried. Diapers. Real diapers. Like the one I was wearing the other day. And I can't take them off. There's no way I can go a whole week without, you know. And I can't have you help me again, not for an entire week. She'd know something was up for sure. I am so sorry, Jane, I said again. Peter. I told you I don't blame you. Jane repeated, look, there's something else I want to tell you. You've been so great with all this. And you're such a good friend. I've been thinking that maybe we should. I mean, I wanted to tell you that Oh crap. Mom's coming. I gotta go. Jane hung up the phone. For the second time that day I was left wondering what Jane wanted to say. Still, despite her insistence that she didn't blame me, I couldn't help blame myself. If only I could take her place, or at least share in her punishment. Then the thought struck me, maybe I could, in a way. I snuck outside and retrieved the bag from the trash can.